Hello again. It's good to see you here. Thank you for tuning in. Well, if you're new, I would love it if you would look back on other videos that I've done. We've mostly been talking about light, but I'd actually like to talk about how we walk in the light as a concept, like we talked about in one of the videos that I've done about how if we walk in the light as Christ is in the light, that he lives in us. And so I've had to learn over the years that one of the things that holds me back from not walking in the light is not being able to let go of things in the past, maybe experiences that I didn't really think were that great. Or sometimes it's actually more unforgiveness toward people who maybe wronged me or hurt me in some way. And this is a really important aspect of our health. We've known for quite a while that there's a mind body connection, that your thoughts have power over the chemicals in your body. There was a Dr. Candace Pert's research back in 1985, and that research showed they were looking at the limbic system and then what kinds of immune effects it had on the system. So, like, this is like the area of the brain where your emotions kind of originate, they think. And so, a lot of times it's thoughts, ideas, beliefs that come up, and then your limbic system has a response, like either positive or negative. And then what they found was it would change the chemistry not only in your brain, but in the entire body. So, like, all of your digestive enzymes, the peptides, neurotransmitters, hormones, and then those chemical messengers would get sent out from the thought or the belief, and that produced emotion. These chemicals would be sent out immediately and affect every cell. And remember, we have 37 trillion cells in our body, roughly. So every cell of our body would be affected at the same time, simultaneously, by a thought, by a feeling, by, just our belief about a situation. So, like, let's say you're driving. Here's the common one: you're driving, someone cuts you off in traffic. Your limbic system will respond to whatever your thoughts are about that situation. So, like, if you were to be like, oh, that person didn't care, then you would feel maybe angry toward them or frustrated or something. Well, what happens is right at that moment, these chemical messengers get sent out into your body, and how we talked about fight or flight, the danger response. Well, now you're activated with all these chemicals that basically tell your body there's a threat, and so what happens is it changes your immune system, it changes your digestion. You can't be in a rest state when you're thinking like really angry, frustrated, intense thoughts. And we've touched on this already, but I just kind of wanted to really bring this home because we've got to understand that the only thing that we can control in our lives is how we respond to the things that happen around us, right? So if we can get a handle on our responses, we can get a handle on our health, not just mental health, not just emotional health, but our physical health as well, because it's all connected and it's all involved together. So I was looking through scripture and I thought there's a couple of very interesting things. And one I want to point out today is that you're all familiar, I'm sure, with the Sermon on the Mount. And Christ is talking about prayer. And he says, this is Matthew chapter 6, and it's in the Passion Translation because I like that one. Anyway, he says, pray like this: Our beloved Father, dwelling in the heavenly realms, may the glory of your name be the center on which our lives turn. Now think about that. If we are praying this in our heart, that we're centered around the God of the universe and that our whole lives are turning on that, can we be in that state of mind and also be in a state of frustration, fear, and panic? I think not, but let me continue. So, starting with verse 10, manifest your kingdom realm and cause your every purpose to be fulfilled on earth just as it is in heaven. Well, there's another thing to think about. What is it like in heaven? We kind of have to have a picture that if we really want to have that kind of presence in our life now. So if we're trying to bring the kingdom of God or heaven to earth, would it not start in how we saw what heaven was? So we kind of have to be able to envision that. So what I've done as an exercise is just ask what is in heaven. Okay. And like if something happens, I'll ask, is that in heaven? And if it's something terrible, the answer is no. So we know that heaven is good. We can probably agree on that. So if that's the case, then we want our thoughts to be lined up with what Christ came to deliver, that true heaven, which is peace and love and joy and righteousness. So I know it sounds weird, but you can have a response to being cut off in traffic without an offense. You can have a, oh, I hope they're okay, instead of, what an idiot. What do they think they're doing? We can change our whole physiology and our mindset and our heart, our emotions, and all of that just by changing our responses. And it has to be based on something that we've come to understand as reality. So as you build on your vision of what heaven is, what it's like, and you want to connect with bringing that to earth, just like Christ said that was basically our job, then you can start to prioritize your responses to things in life. That, I mean, even the really tragic things that happen, you can start to have them reframed for you once you realize that it's about perspective. And if my perspective is heavenly, I'm no longer looking for honing in on or elevating things that are contrary to that heavenly presence or existence. Okay, so I'm going to go on. So, verse 11, we acknowledge you as our provider of all we need each day. You know, one of the biggest fears people have is lack. They're like afraid, if I don't do, X, Y, and Z, I will have nothing. I could be poor, I could be destitute. And the truth is that most of our fears and worries are really energy that is spent the wrong way. Because usually when we're afraid of something, it's not going to happen anyway, but it comes up as an anxiety or a thought. And if we kind of hone in on that, what does that do now that we know this mind body connection stuff? What does that do to the things around us? What does it do to our physiology? Well, I guarantee you, fear is going to make you not have the right immune system, not have the right digestive enzymes, not have the right neurotransmitters for your brain chemistry, not have the right hormones for all your operations in your body. So we want to really think about what we're thinking, what thoughts we have, so that we can take those anxious, fearful, hateful, whatever thoughts, and say, no, no, that's not heaven. I'm not thinking that way. And then we can move away from that. And as we learn to do this, it will actually change our chemistry. All right, so I'm reading on. So he points out, he says in the prayer, how we're supposed to pray, forgive us the wrongs we have done as we ourselves release forgiveness to those who have wronged us. Okay, so The idea of releasing forgiveness means that you already have it, right? So when you have something and you give it away, it does return to you because it came from above. So anything that we have, we're gifted. I mean, you came into this world with nothing, right? And so everything in your life that you have, you've been blessed with. And guess what? You can give out that same blessing and you won't run out of the blessing. Because if you know that you're forgiven, you know that you're loved, and you give out forgiveness and you give out love, guess what? You're not lower in forgiveness and love. You actually build up in love when you give out love. So, what I thought was interesting on the sermon, in the Sermon on the Mount, was that Christ not only said the part where he says, "Forgive us the wrongs we have done as we ourselves release forgiveness to those who have wronged us," he also follows up after the prayer and says, "And when you pray, make sure you forgive the faults of others, so that your Father in heaven will also forgive you." Okay, so that is kind of like what I'm saying. We've already been given forgiveness. So when we dole out forgiveness for others, we actually increase the forgiveness. We increase heaven on earth because the forgiveness came, everything good comes from above, right? And so that forgiveness came from our Father. So now we get to distribute it and it grows. And that is actually how we have heaven on earth. Now, I know many people, including myself, have been through some pretty hard times. We've been betrayed, we've been let down, we've been hurt in many ways. And there's a temptation there to hold on to those things. But you know what happens is you anchor yourself to that situation. And then how are you supposed to move forward? How are you supposed to move into living a life of heaven on earth if you're dragging hell around with you? If you have this big, heavy suitcase of things you haven't let go of that aren't doing you any good, you're just never going to make progress. And so if we want to be healthy in our body, in our spirit, in our soul, our mind, our emotions, all those things, then we're going to have to learn, number one, how to not be offended. Like, it's so easy to criticize and it's so easy to make assumptions, like the example of somebody cuts you off in traffic. It's like, what an idiot, or they don't care or whatever. But maybe that person is distracted because they're having a hard day, or maybe they're just oblivious or whatever. And since you have a choice, you can choose we can choose how to see it in a more heavenly, forgiving, loving way. And then we are freed, and the love in us is built up at the same time. And that propels us forward. That puts us into a place where we can receive from heaven because we're being heaven like beings instead of, you know, earthly people just focused on the what is here right now. We're able to envision the things that could be if there was more kindness in the world, there was more appreciation of other people, um, just the fact that we're not alone on this planet. It would be nice at times, I'm sure we think, we just want some space, but honestly, we need each other and we need to learn how to love properly. And that, I believe, is what Christ came to show us. And it's the way that we enter into divine health. So I hope this helped you today. I hope that, I know it's a topic that isn't always easily received, and I'm not trying to dismiss any terrible things that people have done to you or have happened in your life, but I would just encourage you to release forgiveness and also to release yourself from being anchored to a position in the past that was not favorable. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. And it would be great if you would subscribe to the channel. And also, if you do like what you hear, please give it a thumbs up because it helps, the YouTube algorithm to actually bring the video to other people's attention. And I think these are messages that could help a lot of people. All right. Take care until next time.